In 1971, a man hijacked a plane, stole a fortune mid-flight, and jumped into darkness. No body, no trace, no answers. And what's worse, he might have gotten away with it. Most heists end in arrest. This one ended in legend. With a fake name and a bold plan, one passenger rewrote FBI history at 30,000 feet. D.B. Cooper didn't just disappear, he became myth. In this video, we're following the clues, breaking the silence, and asking, did he actually survive? It all began the day before Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1971. The world was different then. Airports didn't have metal detectors, ID checks were loose, people still smoked on planes, and hijackings, well, they were surprisingly common. But none were like this. Around 2 p.m. at Portland International Airport, a man walked up to the counter of Northwest Orient Airlines. He wore a dark suit, a thin black tie, a white shirt, and carried a briefcase. He was calm, polite, maybe in his mid-40s. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, coach, flight 305. Minutes later, he boarded the Boeing 727-100, one of about 30 dozen passengers. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, except one thing. 30 minutes after takeoff, as the plane cruised quietly toward Seattle, this unremarkable man handed a note to a flight attendant. She thought it was just another businessman hitting on her. But then he leaned in and whispered, "Ma'am, you better read that. I have a bomb." At first, she didn't even know if he was serious. But when she looked down, her hands trembled. The note, typed in block letters, demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready in Seattle. If not, he'd blow the plane up. She glanced at his briefcase. He quietly opened it just enough to reveal wires, red sticks, a battery. It looked real. And that's when things became terrifyingly real. The pilot was alerted. Air traffic control informed the FBI. And in total silence, the plane kept flying, pretending like nothing was wrong. Below, authorities scrambled to gather the cash ransom and parachutes. That money they marked with serial numbers. And they prepared for what no one had ever dealt with before, a mid-air extortion with lives on the line. Here's what surprised everyone. He was oddly calm, polite, never panicked, never angry. He ordered bourbon, left a generous tip, even offered to pay for his drink. He wasn't hijacking the plane to go to Cuba or make a political protest like others did that decade. He wanted something very specific. And whatever it was, he got it. At 5:39 p.m., the jet landed in Seattle. The FBI handed over the cash and parachutes. True to his word, Cooper released all 36 passengers, unharmed. Just 5 people remained on board: the pilot, co-pilot, a flight attendant, a flight engineer, and Cooper. Now came the twist. Instead of escaping in Seattle, he gave specific demands. Fly me to Mexico City. Keep the plane at 10,000 feet, gear down, flaps at 15 degrees, cabin unpressurized, fly slow. It was a very weird, almost military-sounding request. The instructions seemed bizarre until you realized one thing. He wasn't planning to land that plane. He intended to jump. At 7:40 p.m., the flight took off again into the cold, rainy night, direction south. Somewhere over the thick forest near Washington-Oregon border, Cooper did the unthinkable. He opened the aircraft's rear staircase, a feature unique to that Boeing model. And at 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a sudden pressure shift in the cabin. The back ramp had dropped. Just like that, in the middle of a storm, Cooper vanished into the night sky. $200,000 strapped to his chest, wearing just a trench coat and loafers. And no one, not the pilots nor the FBI, saw him again. no parachute, no body, no trace. You'd think he died, right? Jumping into a storm in the middle of nowhere? But here's what'll keep you up at night. Not a single trace of his remains has ever been found. No parachute, no gear, not even the suit he wore. So, the question is, did Cooper survive? Or was this a perfect act of the ultimate vanishing magic trick? The FBI launched what became the longest-running investigation in the Bureau's history, NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. They interviewed hundreds of suspects, followed thousands of leads. They tracked every serial number on those $20 bills. They searched forests, rivers, and frozen mountain zones. Nothing. Then, in 1980, a little boy digging near the Columbia River found something unbelievable: a decaying package of $20 bills. Total, $5,800. They matched some of the ransom serial numbers. So that seems like proof, right? Except they were buried carefully. It looked planted. So either Cooper buried the money or someone else did. The mystery deepened. And the suspects? Oh, there were plenty. Let's go rapid fire. Robert Rackstraw, a former Army pilot and explosives expert, served in Vietnam, had fake IDs. His stunts matched Cooper's description, but no hard evidence ever tied him. Kenneth Christensen, a former flight attendant, knew that exact airline, fit the profile. Left behind unexplained cash after his death. Still inconclusive. Dwayne Weber allegedly confessed to being Cooper on his deathbed. But again, no proof. What's chilling is that each of them matched tiny details, but none of them matched everything. And get this, in 2016, the FBI finally closed the investigation. Just like that, after 45 years. Why? Because they had nothing left to chase. The secret advantage. Here's something the public rarely realizes. Cooper chose a specific aircraft, the Boeing 727, one of the very, very few planes with a rear stair escape. And more than that, he knew it could fly at low altitude with the landing gear down without crashing. This wasn't some drunk with a wild plan. It was strategic, measured, almost surgical. Was he ex-CIA, ex-military, intelligence? No one knows. But his knowledge wasn't accidental. And that's what fuels the legend. Some believe DB Cooper was a decoy, a distraction, while real secrets were being smuggled somewhere else. Others think he worked for the government and that the truth was buried. There are files, redacted documents, and some former agents admit we weren't allowed to pursue certain leads. Think about that. Could DB Cooper have been erased from history on purpose? Half a century later, people are still obsessed with this mystery. There are DB Cooper fan clubs, comic books, documentaries, even an entire CooperCon conference held every fall. Why? Because it's not just about a man and a theft. It's about the idea that one person, completely anonymous, took on the entire system and won. It's the American outlaw myth, but in modern form. A man in a suit, in control, drinking his bourbon, while holding an entire airline hostage with nothing more than confidence and planning. It's the fantasy of freedom, to vanish, clean into legend. Here's what this story really says about us. In a world where everything's tracked, where cameras are on every street and digital footprints follow you everywhere, the idea that a man could simply disappear, it haunts us. Because we crave mystery. We want to believe there are still unsolved secrets. And DB Cooper, he reminds us how powerful mystery really is. Maybe he didn't survive. Maybe he did. But either way, he escaped something most people never do: obscurity. He became immortal. Would you have jumped? Drop your theory in the comments. And if this story got you thinking, subscribe for more.